Hi. Conservatives have been outraged recently that President Obama has not halted flights from West Africa. This is not surprising. For the past 6 years, if a player for the Dallas Cowboys pisses his pants during Monday Night Football, they've called for congressional hearings to find out why Obama didn't stop it. Nonetheless, in this case, it is a perfectly reasonable question for them to ask. After all, he is the president of everybody, and every citizen has a right to look at the president and ask, why are you doing what you're doing? As a former delegate for Obama and a person that voted for him twice, I'm also mystified as to why we're still bringing in flights of people from a hot zone. We're talking about a disease with a 21-day incubation period and a 50% mortality rate. Politicians keep saying, well, we've got an advanced healthcare system here, so there's no need to worry. Do you know what the primary treatment for Ebola is? Even here in the U.S., water. They keep you on IV fluids, with the idea being that if you're bleeding out and defecating and vomiting yourself to death, then your body will have a better chance of fighting the illness if you're hydrated. This is entirely true, but it's a bit like throwing an oxygen tank into a lake and hoping the guy at the bottom will be able to find it in the darkness before he drowns. It's a nice gesture, but I still don't want to be the guy in the bottom of the lake. There are concerns that doctors and aid workers won't be able to get into Africa to stop the disease there if we halt the flights, and that this will be worse for us in the long run. But is it reasonable to say that the only way that we can accomplish this is by allowing plane loads of potentially infected people into the U.S.? No. There are philosophical concerns. We support the freedom of the individual, the freedom of movement, and economic freedom. But let's be frank, we've been banning flights to and from Cuba for 50 years. Why? Because they have a different economic system. So let's be real. We can put aside freedom of travel and freedom of the individual when it conflicts with our economic philosophy, but not when it threatens our lives. President Obama and other world leaders are looking at this problem from within the confines of an economic system. That system relies upon markets and commerce. And let's be clear, it has been determined that it would have a devastating effect on the economy if we stop those. Just the losses to the airlines themselves would be in the billions. But is it really so important that people don't lose money, that we're willing to put 50% of the population at risk of death? What do people really need? What are they using the money for? At base, it's food, water, shelter, and clothing. Is it impossible for us for a moment to look beyond this system and ask ourselves, what other way could we possibly be doing this? It comes down to a basic question. Do the people serve an economic system, or do economic systems exist to serve the people? If the economic system that is allowing this virus to move around the world so rapidly isn't in the public good, and the people are going to be the victim of it, then the answer is simple. You change the damn system. You alter it in some way. These are numbers on pieces of papers. You erase those numbers and you create some other numbers that actually make it work for the public good. What's missing right now is our freedom of choice to do anything for the common good. Conservatives are saying, why isn't the federal government doing anything? The federal government isn't doing anything because it doesn't serve the public good anymore. It serves money. And liberals, who in every bit of philosophy support the public good, are now defending that very system because our guy is at the top of it. But no matter how much you may like Obama or despise conservatives or vice versa, the virus doesn't care. It doesn't care. The handrail or elevator button with a little bit of phlegm to it that you press and then scratch your nose isn't going to ask for your voter registration card or your economic philosophy. If you want to look at some numbers that really, really matter, look at the transmission rates of Ebola. Take a good hard look at those numbers. Those are real numbers, because as is, regardless of all the, hey, everything is all right, just keep shopping talk, nothing is going to stop these numbers from doubling, quadrupling, octupling. It's a virus. It's not going to have a bad day at the market and suddenly plunge. We're talking about our kids here. our families. Are we really going to tell them, well, your mother, brother, sister, father could be alive, but we couldn't possibly consider doing anything differently? This virus may be stopped by local efforts in Africa, or there could be a vaccine developed. This would be great, but as of today, neither of those things are happening. Something has to change, and in order for anything to change, you together are going to have to change it. Tonight, I'm going to make a personal pledge, and I'd like to ask you and even the people of Africa to join me. If my little village here, right here, where I live, ever sprouts something like Ebola, you, the people, are welcome to tell me, Sean, you can't leave your little village right now. I'm fine with that. That's the only moral, rational thing to do. That's called putting the public interest above your own narrow self-interest. So call your representatives and tell them, look, maybe we need to help Africa in a different way so that we can lay off passing trinkets back and forth for a little while. And maybe you in D.C. can get together and figure out a way to keep food, water, shelter, clothing, and medicine available without people having to go out and risk their lives selling trinkets and our lives in a market in order to survive. During World War II, Americans wanted to be out chasing their dreams, making their fortunes. Instead, millions and tens of millions of them dropped everything, their whole lives, everything they wanted to do, and instead gave themselves selflessly to the war effort for the public good. Perhaps today it might be wise to consider, for a brief time, putting aside our desire for shiny things and personal fortunes, and instead focus upon how we might help stop this virus and how we might help each other to survive while we do that. Thank you, and I wish us all the best of luck.